Hey Lauren, you finally got your Mexican residency card. Take a look. How you feel about being a Mexican resident?
Amazing.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Get on that there. Ah! That's why your picture look like a mugshot. Hey there, and welcome back to the channel. I'm just going to do a brief video today about my daughter's portion of obtaining her Mexican temporary residency under me. So I did a video from the start of the process stateside and then secondary to when I went to Mexico to actually do the Kanye process, which is what you do in country. And then there's this video, the third one, which just will talk briefly about the experience I had with getting my daughter rolled up under my existing temporary residency. So I got my card initially towards the end of 2024. Well, that's wrong. When did I get it? Yeah, I did. I got my card towards the end of 2024. That's right. Because I went to the Houston Mexican consulate and did the first part of the process. And then from there, you had 30 days to get in country into Mexico and do the secondary part of the process, which is when you go to the immigration office on that side and basically complete the process. So I did that and I got my Mexican residency, temporary residency card in 2024. And then at the time of this video, then and now, I believe, still currently, you get the card or excuse me, you get the card for 1 year initially, and then you have to come back when that year expires or before that year expires to renew. And you can either renew for an additional year, 2, or 3, but I think the max is 3. So in total, you will be afforded the opportunity to have temporary residency for 4 years, and then after you complete that, you can request to apply for permanent residency. So that's the way that I went in. So got it in 24. A year went by. I went back in 2025 to do the renewal, and then I opted to renew for 3 years because I wasn't trying to come back. I wasn't obviously moved to Mexico by then, and I wasn't trying to come back every year. Or I just went on ahead and paid for the maximum. It's a different fee for each year that you pay. And I talk more about that in those first 2 videos, which you can see in the description below. And I think I'll also link them at the end. But I knew that I wanted to get my daughter rolled up under me at some point. And basically, the dependent, at the time of this video, things might change. Mexico is changing things every day. Can roll up under your existing residency. They cannot exceed, but they can roll. So they just basically can roll under you and fall in line with you where you are in your process of the temporary residency. So I didn't do it initially because I didn't have all the documents that were going to be required. Of course, you can't just show up and put your dependent under your residency. For minors at the time, and probably still presently, they require for you to prove that this is your child and you're not kidnapping them and all that good stuff. So I had to get her birth, obviously passport, and I had to have her birth certificate apostilled. And so that is basically where you have it apostilled in the U.S. country. And that's basically whoever apostilles her document in the U.S. country. It tells Mexico that yes, this is this is an official document for you to consider or accept. And then so I got that done. I got that done here in Texas. It took about 2 or 3 weeks. I had a mobile notary come and get it. She also did apostille. So she actually just came to my house and picked up Lauren's birth certificate. I checked her out, of course, because checked out her license and all that. But it was just great to have somebody mobile come and pick stuff up, because you ain't trying to really drive nowhere in Texas. You're really not. That you don't really need to have to drive. So she came and picked up the document and took that and her fee, of course. And I think it took about 2 weeks. I had to actually order another copy from my daughter's birth state because the birth certificate itself had to be recent, like within the last year or something like that. I think it was. So you're going to want to have a recent copy of your of the birth certificate in question. And then, so once I got the recent copy, then I gave that. I think that requirement was for the state of Texas. The state of Texas wanted a recent birth certificate that they before they apostilled it, which is fine, you know. So I got the copy ordered to me from the state in which she was born, sent to me. It was recent. I got that document, gave it to the notary who took it off to do the apostille, and it took, like I said, almost 2 weeks before it came back to me with the seal and everything. And the way it comes back, it has the birth certificate, excuse me, a letter, a memo from the state, from the court in the state of Texas. And it's stapled to the birth certificate, and then they put a seal on it, and they tell you, don't break the seal, don't damage the seal, because once you do, it's no good anymore. So it was just a 2-page document that I kept. So, and then did I take that? I can't remember which I did first. After I got that done, I went to U.S. consulate or consulate in Mexico. Actually, went to the one in San Miguel de Allende, where I had to go and basically get it notarized in country. Her, not her birth certificate. I had to write a letter, and the letter was in English and it was in Spanish, basically saying, I am who I am. She is who she is. I attest that she's my daughter, and there's no funny business going on here. And then I had to present my documents, my birth certificate, marriage certificates, divorce certificates, whatever is applicable. Sorry, to the Mexican, the embassy there it wasn't. It was a consulate in San Miguel de Allende. So I had to go there with those letters and the documents and just stand before them, raise my right hand and say, she's my daughter. I'm not, ain't no funny business going on here. I swear, yada, yada, yada. And then they do their notary. And that notary package in country, and I think they did the Spanish letter, is what I would take packaged with the apostilled birth certificate to the immigration office, and along with our passports. I took my birth certificate, but they didn't need mine. But they need hers was obviously in the package of the apostille, and then her passport. And yeah, that was pretty much. I think that was pretty much all. There was a letter, an additional letter. I don't even remember what the letter said. I mean, I hired a facilitator to help me it's something you can do on your own, but my Spanish is not that well. And I just wanted to hire somebody to make sure that I had everything before I made that appointment, went to that window. So it's an additional translation letter that's done. It's just basically explaining, the whole process on top of the letter of attestation from the notarized document at the consulate in country, and then in addition to the apostille that I had back stateside. So that's all that comes together that is required. And then you make the appointment, whether you do it yourself or you hire a facilitator. And, you go in there, pick a number, sit down and wait. I hired a facilitator. The facilitator, the Querétaro I&M immigration office. I'm not going to speak negatively on this country because I love it, but it's just sometimes. I think I've been there 3 times now, and some visits were great, and others weren't. But as long as I get what I set out to do done. And there was an instance where I had an appointment and I couldn't get what I needed to get done because they weren't printing cards that day. So just like that, sometimes something might not be working, a printer or something, and then you just got to either go back, another time. Problem is, just you can't leave if you have your temporary visa and you coming in to do something. You can't leave because, if you start a process with getting your card or renewing or whatever. They're going to keep it and all that. So you can't leave without that card. You can't. I mean, there are ways where you can leave and you can get a letter, for permission, explaining what's going on, permission to get back in. And I didn't want to do all that. I want to go. I want to get my card. If I can't get my card and I'm not going to the appointment, I'll try again another time. So anyway, luckily, this last visit that we went on, I, I had all my documents and got the card, had the facilitator. The facilitators, they used to could go in with you sometimes, but as of late, now they can't. So if you don't speak Spanish well and you don't have any English speaking personnel at the window, you just, you got to do what you got to do. And sometimes they understand and they're supportive through that process, and other times they are mad because you in their country and you don't know how to speak of the language and all of that. So, and I get it, it is what it is. I mean, you gotta, whenever you go to another country or whatever, and you're trying to immigrate, assimilate, into their country, you got to be as respectful towards the culture and the country as you can. If you don't know Spanish, you need to consider learning it, or at least, learning enough to get by to be able to communicate the basics. So, but yeah, so that's all really quickly that I needed. I had all that. I had the facilitator look it over, get the additional letter, make sure everything was good, make the appointment, let's go. So met them down there. Again, they can't go inside with you. At the time of this video, they couldn't. So, so me and my daughter, we went in and just waited to be called. And for the most part, everything was good. My daughter did well. I was concerned about her because she is autistic, and sometimes it's hard for her to just sit and wait, especially when you can't use gadgets or anything. That's sometimes too. I've been in times where you could use gadgets, and then other times you couldn't. It just depends on who's present and what the rule of the day is and whatever. So she did pretty good. And all in all, that process was good. It was just one of those days where we had the person at the window that was supporting us was not very friendly and whatever, it, it, I'm, at the end of the day, I got the temporary residency card for my daughter. I met the mission, but I met the goal. The goal was achieved. So my camera cut off while recording, but you pretty much have the gist of the story. Let me know your thoughts or if you have questions about the temporary residency process.